I haven't needed to be courageous in an instant. I haven't needed to save anybody's life, from anything. And in fact, I found this week that I'm even more afraid of the ball. We were playing volleyball and I ducked. It's just, oh, okay, I'm still afraid of the ball. In fact, I'm even more afraid of the ball. That's okay. Luckily, I didn't need to save somebody from the ball. Now, Brian, who isn't here today, who is our drummer, oftentimes, he has a son who has just taken an adventure. His son's name is Kyle, and Kyle has gone off to Japan with his wife to work for a couple of years. And to me, that's very courageous. I could never have done that when I was that age. I was afraid of traveling. When I was in college, I didn't even want to go out of state. I went to the college in Seattle, University of Washington. That was where I grew up. I like traveling now, maybe not on a subway going the wrong way, but I do like traveling. But it took a while for me to get the courage, and what it took was traveling with somebody. I traveled with somebody. Somebody was my hero or my champion and traveled with me, and then I learned that it wasn't so frightening. That's a good thing about the spiritual path, is that we have people who go before us and with us so that we can have courage. Now, there's an exercise that we've done in the past. It's not just a unity exercise. I believe maybe Maria Namath was the one, or Maria, I forget her last name. It's not Namath, that's Daniel Namath. Anyway, she's a coach, and there's an exercise about heroes where everybody takes a card and you think of 6 heroes. I tend to pick Xena, Warrior Princess, Oprah, Pema Chodron. Those are 3 of my heroes that almost always show up. So you pick 6 heroes, and then you figure out what the qualities of the heroes are, and you end up with 6 to 8 qualities, and you write them on your card. And the exercise is about picking the qualities that you see and knowing that if you see them, they're in you. They're qualities of heroism in you. And the card is a little bit like a litmus paper in that you can say, hey, am I acting on the card or off the card? How am I acting today? It's a way to check in on where you're at spiritually. It's always a good exercise, and we'll probably do it maybe after we've seen a lot of heroes in the next couple of weeks. Maybe we'll have some new heroes and some new qualities. The whole idea of being on the card or off the card is that we're starting with the ideal of spiritual wholeness. And the thing about spiritual wholeness is that spiritual wholeness is all the aspects of yourself integrated. So they're the hero qualities, and there are the other qualities too, which may not always seem like hero qualities. But nonetheless, if they are in you, we need to integrate them somehow. So it's spiritual wholeness. In Unity, we like to say a lot, the Christ. The Christ. We don't just say Christ, we say the Christ is within, and the Christ is wholeness. It's all of us. Right? It's that whole quality. The path to wholeness leads us to integration of all the parts of the self, and that path will include welcoming the things we don't necessarily want to face. So all of the aspects on the card and off the card. The stories of heroes really inspire us. We are taught in such a beautiful way by the example of another person's experience. We find the hero in us. I want to read from The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown about courage. Courage is a huge theme in my life, says Brene. It seems that either I'm praying for some, feeling grateful for having found a little bit, appreciating it in other people, or studying it. I don't think that makes me unique. Everyone wants to be brave. After interviewing people about the truths of their lives, their strengths and struggles, I realized that courage is one of the most important qualities that wholehearted people have in common. And not just any kind of courage. I found that wholeheartedness requires ordinary courage. Here's what I mean. The root of the word courage is cor, the Latin word for heart. In one of its earliest forms, the word courage has a very different definition than it does today. Courage originally meant to speak one's mind by telling all one's heart. Over time, this definition has changed. And today, courage is more synonymous with being heroic. Heroics is important, and we certainly need heroes. But I think we've lost touch with the idea that speaking openly and honestly about who we are, about what we're feeling, and about our experiences, good and bad, is the definition of courage. Heroics is often about putting our life on the line. Ordinary courage is about putting our vulnerability on the line. In today's world, that's pretty extraordinary. I have a video to show you, and I want to turn off all the lights. Just a short little video about some Olympic athletes who I think are great examples of courage.
Were among the most triumphant, real-life victories over despair and desperation, even death. And while winning Olympic medals remains a dream for them all, competing in front of billions of people is no longer a fantasy. For the 10 women and men representing Team Refuge, being here was life-affirming, a validation that freedom is a universal aim and a hallmark of the Olympic spirit, which each of these athletes carries home. Polo Emerton and Yeech Perbail escaped southern Sudan and are headed back to a Kenyan refugee camp, inspired more than ever to encourage others.
We have talented refugees who did not come to this Olympic, but we must open door for them so that they can see their future in life, not only through education, but they can do something through sport.
It was through sport that a world of new possibilities has opened, from battle-torn Syria and war-weary African countries, helping runners and swimmers and judo athletes trade their fears for focus, uncertainty for the pursuit of happiness. In Rio, they competed against the best while doing their best. Yusra Mardini won her 100-meter butterfly heat but wasn't fast enough to qualify for the next round. Popole Masinga won his opening round judo match, though lost his next one. Rami Anis recorded a personal best in 100-meter freestyle, not fast enough to move beyond qualifying heats. Yolande Mabika battled to defeat in her first-round judo match. James Chinjiik raced in the 800 meters and ranked 50th overall. Angelina Lohalath competed in the 1500 meters, finishing toward the back of the pack. Rose Lakonyan was 7th in her 800-meter heat and 61st overall. Jonas Kende is scheduled to run the marathon on Sunday. Perbail ranked 54th in the 800-meter heats, Hamilton 39th in men's 1500 meters. In the end, Rio was more than a mere competition.
What do you want to say to the young kids, the young Kenyans and others around the world?
So actually, it is good to ask that. You know, in this world, so you have to have a friendship. So for us also here now, you meet with so many people, not only Kenyans, or so many people from this village who have come from different countries.
The interlocking rings of the Olympic logo represent a fellowship of nations, a call to champion the greater good, especially on behalf of the 65 million refugees around the world.
We can call ourselves to be ambassador for others because we have come as a team of refugees. We are not representing ourselves as an individual. We must go back to serve the young nation of refugees.
The 2020 Summer Olympics in Tokyo are now in their sights, so too a lot of hard work. Ron Mott, NBC News, Rio.
I think one of the things
You
I
told
like
me on
the most about that is, 67th place or whatever, or didn't make it to the next heat. And yet, still, such courage in the face of a lot of adversity, right? You don't even have a country. You're not in your country. You're in a refugee camp. I think that those athletes are showing extraordinary as well as ordinary courage. The ordinary courage that Brené Brown talked about, and the extraordinary courage that, is saving people in a moment, saving yourself. Every athlete or every person who's practicing piano or every person who's learning something has to practice every day and not give up. And that's ordinary courage, I believe. And that might be the most important aspect of spiritual courage. To practice every day and not give up. In past times, the traditional, or one of the roles of a minister or a priest, was to be the one to intercede between the people and God. We throw that idea completely out in unity and proclaim that nobody needs an intercessory to reach spirit, for spirit lies within each of us. Mark Nepo has, I like to quote him a lot because he has these beautiful poetic ideas, and they inspire me. So he's definitely one of my heroes, and he certainly has exhibited a lot of courage. This morning, early in the morning, the reading for the day had this idea about soil. The soil that nurtures the plant, the soil that actually supports the roots of the plant and nurtures it. There's even more in the reading, but that just struck me so much. Because, we're plants, we're walking around plants, right? But, oh my goodness, do we need the soil that supports us and nurtures us? That's why I wanted that song this morning, all the names of God. There is one aspect about being a minister that you cannot shake me from, and that is knowing, whatever you want to call it, about the soil, experiencing it and feeling it. I know it in every fiber of my being, and that is the part of my job I'm really happy and proud to remind you of. I see that as my job, to remind you that no matter what, there is God, there is, if you want to call it, the Force. Why do you think everybody loves the concept of the Force in Star Wars? We love that. There is God. There is a benevolent force, okay? The Christ. Robert Keegan says, God is the name we give to the ceaseless, restless, creative flow of energy in the universe. And then our friend, he's like my personal friend, Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. Joy is the infallible sign of the presence of God. Joy is the infallible sign of the presence of God. Right? I want to tell you that I experienced that in my life. I feel really blessed and really lucky, but from when I was a little kid, I had, some people call it faith. I'm going to call it an experience, okay? I'm not going to call it faith. I'm going to call it, I have the experience, and I'm quite certain of the benevolent force of the universe. I kind of like calling it that because a lot of us have baggage about all the other words, depending on how we were raised. One of the first awakenings that I ever had was at a self-help workshop. We did an exercise about the word God. We just said, a thought I have about God is, whatever it was. And the other person just listened. And we kept going. A thought I have about God is. And in that exercise, I recognized that I had these really old-fashioned, bizarre, strange ideas of God being outside of me and some old guy up in the sky. And, you know, just by, even though I wouldn't have told you that walking into that workshop, I recognized that I did have some blocks. And when I recognized that and let it go, all I can say is it's like the world opened up for me in a way that was amazing to me. What I'd felt all along the soil that was supporting me and nourishing me, it's like it multiplied times 100 or 1,000 or something, because I wasn't blocking it anymore. I wasn't blocking it anymore. You know, I am still very good at being miserable, you know, any given day, and blocking my good. But even at my most miserable, I feel the soil. I feel the Spirit and I feel the soil. And if there is anything else, if there's nothing else, I mean to say, that I ever do as stand and know that truth enough that somebody else can know it too, then I'm happy. You know, I'm happy. I feel like I have done what I came here to do, which is to believe that for myself and all of us, to believe it so strongly for all of us. Because, frankly, I think it makes the days a lot different, right? You know? It makes the days a lot different. Now, what do we have to practice every day, right? We need to practice every day and do not give up, just like the athletes who have gone to the Olympics and the athletes that don't go to the Olympics. The people who practice whatever it is they're doing, athletes, piano, learning a different language, getting up every day. Practice every day, do not give up. Well, what do you have to practice every day? What is your spiritual practice? I can suggest all kinds of spiritual practices. And, you know, I like to. Just ask my friends and family. And I'm going to go back to the beginning thing I talked about, being on the card. The truth is, everybody has to write their own card and has to write their own spiritual practice. I know that is the most annoying thing about Unity, is that we don't give you a list of things to do. Like, I mean, we have some, but we don't say, this is what you have to do. This is what you have to do. This is what you have to do. We say, you need to write your own card. You are the only person who knows if you're authentic and whole. You're the only one who can write what the Christ is to you. You are the only one who knows what being whole looks for you. You know? I mean, obviously, there's some things we can guess at for each other. You know, be kind, that's a good one. Be compassionate, be loving, and you know, we can get together and agree on those things. But for our own personal journey, you know, whatever it is, it's actually very personal. It's very personal. Courage is very personal. Just like I can get up and speak, some people would probably hate that. I'm not going to sing. Some people love that. I'm probably also not ever going to go to the Olympics at this point. But I am going to run a half marathon, slowly, in a couple weeks. One thing I wanted to show you along the way of that, about, this is Roland's magazine. I don't know if he ordered it or someone just read his mind and sent it to him. It's called Afar, and it says, "Be fearless, travel now. 13 trips to take before it's too late." And in the magazine, there's reasons why you want to, like you want to go to Venice because it actually is sinking. You want to go to the Dead Sea because it's in 20 or 30 years it's going to be full and the water will have receded. Various other things in the magazine before it's too late. And that just kind of really struck me, take courage. So on your card, what are the trips? What are the trips that you need to take before it's too late? What's the spiritual path? What is the spiritual practice or the spiritual goal you need to do before the Dead Sea gets full or Venice sinks? What do you need to do? And only you can know. I discovered something just yesterday that I needed to do. For some reason, I was tired. We'd driven on Friday, and we had a week with kids and grandkids. It was really nice and beautiful, but I was really tired yesterday. And sometimes when I'm tired, it's as if I don't ever remember what being tired feels like. It's kind of silly, really. I'm feeling tired and depressed, and it was gray, and I'm thinking, oh, what is wrong? I even went for a run, and that didn't perk me up. And I was feeling tired, and I decided to use a little spiritual practice. So I took some time apart, and I meditated, and I took time to feel the soil in my roots, to feel the support and the nourishment that is always there. And I learned that part of why I was tired was because I am still actually a pleaser. Who knew? Believe me, I know. And that's why I was tired, because I had spent a little more energy than was healthy for me or anyone else trying to please, not coming from true love and integrity and the kind of giving that is the Christ, but I was coming from the side of me that doesn't really believe I'm okay, and that I need to make you happy so that you love me and I'm okay, And I didn't even know it. It was fairly unconscious for a whole week, and it wore me out, and that's why I was so tired. But once I discovered that, it was really funny. Once the thought, I took the time to get some nourishment from the soil and some support, it was like, I didn't even feel tired anymore. I certainly didn't feel depressed anymore. I might have still enjoyed sitting on the couch, but I didn't have the grayness, I didn't shut down. I was more alive. And that's my personal story, but here's the good news, that each of us, all of you, you've got, you have access to the same soil. All of us have access to the same soil. And I am quite convinced that the thing that I keep returning to, and I will never shut up about it, is to take the space and time and create a little space with prayer, meditation, whatever you want to call it. You need to get some quiet and silence and space in your life to connect to that. Now, that's my number one way. That being said, there are many ways to feel the soil. Okay? That's the way I'm always going to go back to. But some people feel that love and goodness when they're serving at the homeless shelter. Okay? Some people feel that in many other ways. But I'm always going to I'm going to keep bringing us back to, okay, and try this. Okay? Try the quiet, try the silence, and see if you can feel God's connection at that time. Yeah. Love. The last thing I want to leave you with is there was a New Yorker cartoon on my New Yorker calendar that I just love, and I hope you see the complete synchronicity of all this. And right, this will wrap everything up for you, and you will understand everything, right, when I explain this, because you love people telling you about cartoons. All right. Here's our superhero in the doctor's office. Okay, superhero, don't know which superhero he is. All we know is he's got a cape, he has a nice symbol on his front, and he's flying, and he's a little chubby, okay? And he's flying, and the doctor's up looking at him going, okay, that's all very well, but you're still going to have to walk some. So, we all have our superpowers, the things that don't take courage. For that guy, it's walking. Right? So whatever it is for us, I know that all of us, we can do it. We have the courage to do the walking, the riding on the subway, whatever it is we need to do, we have the courage. Let's take an offering for unity.